Good morning to everybody, and thank to all of you for coming to this event. To give you a little background of some of the logos you see up on the screen, obviously Gary and I I guess it's been about a year and a half ago, we formed an alliance between Gary's accounting efforts and what he was doing with his consulting business and what we do at Holman's of Nevada. We're a technology firm, and for years and years we have worked in the technology business, supplying systems, network services, and IT equipment and network support services to all of our clients throughout the Valley. We've been doing it for 25 years, just since the technology changed over. First of all, Gary handles our accounting at our office, and naturally it's Sage. It's Mass 200. It's a great system. We've been running it for 94, and he's got the stars to prove it. So we understand the product. We're very good at the software. Gary's outstanding with modifications, and you're going to learn a lot more about that from him. So Holman's of Nevada and ISC, which is Gary's group, want to welcome you to the event today.
In the 20 years that I've been doing this, I've gone through dozens, if not many more than that, different kinds of accounting software packages. The Sage and Mass 90, Mass 200, probably what I've been working on the most lately, but almost every one of the big packages. We did a study about 10 years ago, and we found that there were well over 2,000 accounting software packages out there that you buy. And as we go out to different clients, we find out that there are that many out there. There's so many of them, and you've probably bumped into it as well, different kinds of accounting packages out there. Many of the very small companies, little mom and pops, are going to a QuickBooks, and QuickBooks seems to be gaining that smallest end of it. And so what I did is I found a guy a couple of years ago who did a study and found about 8 years ago, we think it was about that time, there was a real consolidation of the marketplace. Those 2,000 titles, at least half of them went out of business, and many more of them were consolidated into other larger companies. So for instance, Sage, the company that we will be talking a little bit about today, has probably done the biggest job, Microsoft at least second place, in consolidating many of those packages and those titles together into one title. So Sage has things like the Mass 90, Mass 200, Mass 500, Timberline, Master Builder, ACPAC Plus, the old Platinum that IBM used to have. Master Builder was a package that Intuit, QuickBooks used to have, and they spun off. So many of the packages have come underneath and tried to consolidate. And so what I've seen, though, in the last, this started, like I said, about 8 years ago, what I've seen, though, in the last year or two is a revolution in the whole accounting process, the industry. About the same, and now you guys are all too young to know this, but remember when it was manual systems?
I remember.
You're all too young for that, right? You're all too young for that. No, we never knew that. We heard about it. We read about it in a booklet.
Right.
The old manual systems, and when they went from manual systems to computerized systems, how revolutionary that was. I believe that close to that, right now, we're undergoing that kind of a revolution in the accounting software. That's how big I believe it is. So the sheet you've got there in front of you, we tried to get the 50 top packages, or this company did. It was a nationwide survey and result that they came up with, and tried to find the 50 most sold packages out there. Maybe not the 50 best, but the 50 most sold. So there were a couple packages that I know that I think are very good packages that didn't find their way onto this sheet. Timberline is used quite often. I'm not saying Timberline's a good package, but Timberline is one that I thought was sold quite heavily, at least here in Las Vegas and the West Coast. Didn't find it on the national survey as one of the 50 most. So that's an idea. Now that's what I was hoping, if you guys could fill out that survey, and I get that survey back. The survey, I know some of you use the Mass 90 for your core modules, but the other modules you use, for instance, where it says other down there, if you use a CRM package, down at the bottom here, if you use a CRM package, if you use Scales, I know one company in particular uses that software that you use there, it's different kinds of software is what I was trying to get at here in this part here. What different kinds of software do you use if you have a time clock in your office with software in that? Different kinds of software, what kinds do you use out there? And that'll be part of the presentation here in a second, is most places have a wide variety of software that's used. Even though maybe the standard is that MAS 200, MAS 9200, the Timberline, the Great Plains, or whatever is being used in the office, maybe the core modules. I was quite surprised as I started asking this question that are on that survey, asking the question of what else do you use? So if you take a look at these 50 though, they're divided up into segments or sizes of software packages. The elite or the high end, the tier 1 packages headed by SAP, PeopleSoft, Oracle, JD Edwards, Lawson. If you've heard of those packages before, they're the very expensive packages. Anywhere from $500,000 to $1 million just to buy the software.
Oh my gosh.
And then to continue on using that software, they're charging you $100,000 a year just to maintain, or just to have the rights to use it. And then the people that come in and help, which you need quite a bit of help usually with a package that size, $200 an hour. You're paying attorney fees almost to get the people in there to do that. So if you've not had that experience with those packages, they're good packages, very extensive packages, very worldwide package. Have you used those before?
We use PeopleSoft.
PeopleSoft. So the very, very extensive packages, very good packages, but very expensive too. I don't know if you bumped into paying the bills on those things.
No, but it's very extensive. There's a lot of different tiers to it.
Oh, absolutely.
It's very intricate.
Absolutely, absolutely. The high-end packages then, as you see those, many of those, the MAS 200, 500 we'll be talking about. Infinium is one that's used in most of the gaming properties down on the Strip today. And then down in the next, the mid-range, you'll see packages such as the Dynamics, which is the Microsoft product, Solomon, which is also now a Microsoft product, and so forth, down with the MAS 90 ACPAC Pro, and so forth. Sima, some people were talking about Sima. They knew of the package Sima. And then down at the bottom end is where you have the packages such as Peachtree, QuickBooks, and such like that. Now the relative positioning of those packages, the PeopleSoft way up there and the QuickBooks way down below, it is really trying to show you feature-wise. What I've attempted to do over on the right-hand side, which I've not completed yet, I'm still working on that, is the relative ease of use and the relative costs involved in having that package. The gist of what we wanted to talk about today is right here on the screen, and the page or the paper that I handed out should help quite a bit regardless of the package we're using, whether it's a QuickBooks or a PeopleSoft, that big of a range. Because the whole idea, the whole concept is the TCO means really the total cost of ownership, if you've ever heard that term before. What does it cost us to operate the hardware, or to purchase the hardware and the software, and then maintain that hardware and software? And that's everything we're trying to offer here. And the old way of looking at it is, what is the total cost of owning this structure of the hardware and software and the people coming in to help and maintain it and so forth. But now it's changed a little bit. Instead of the total cost of how much is it going to cost me to operate that, and you said that's out of Denver or someplace else, is what's it going to cost me to own that software? Is they're looking at now is where's my return on investment? And the very first thing an owner says to me when I mention this ROI, return on investment, how can there be a return on investment on just a simple cost, right? Well, the idea or the concept is, and what we're going to hopefully get to today, and in that paper you read even deeper than what would, today we're just going to brush over much of what we're talking about. There's not enough time to get into it. But the paper that I hand out, the white paper I handed out, gets into quite a bit more detail. In fact, there's a paper, and I probably didn't bring it out, is where this was based on. There's a company called Aberdeen Group. The Aberdeen Group, 30, 40 pages in their study. 30, 40 pages in their study went out and took a look and tried to find all the people, and from the best I can tell is they were looking at just Tier 1 companies. Tier 1, people who own Tier 1 companies. Because they started at 25 million and up. And 25 million in revenue for the whole company and up. And the cost of software there was at about $1 million. The total cost of ownership, they started at $1 million. So this company with this amount of revenues paid about $1 million for their software. And then so forth up with a even larger companies. So yours would be on the small end of that one, even though today you're maybe the large end. So their Aberdeen Group studies went out and tried to study, is the total cost of ownership the way we should look at this? Or how can software save us money? And that's really what the ROI is about. What can it save us in doing? And that's what the gist of what we're going to try and talk about today. If a company wants to achieve best in practice, and they talked about 3 types of companies, or 3 levels of companies. Companies who are average, and that's where most companies would fall, is in that average thing. If they want to move from average to best in class, meaning the best of their industry. So I don't know who your competition is in TW Telecom. I know some of the electrical contractors, and I know some of the rock quarries out there. If you wanted to be best in that industry, if you want to be best in the Holman's IT industry, how do you get from that average up? They also talked about the laggards too. I thought that was a good term for them. The laggards, meaning those who are really dragging or pulling up the back end. And those are probably the ones that are going out of business in today's economy. But the average ones, the best in class, are the most apt to stay in business and to really prosper as we start to come out of this industry. So the best in class, this is what best in class people use, is they try and use certain practices that allow them to be better, more efficient, more profitable, and effective in everything they do in their accounting software. Okay? And the 3 ways they found in this study that they could do that is to standardize and automate business processes is the first one. The second is to integrate, and not just integrate, but keep the internet involved, is be able to integrate this thing throughout the internet. And I think that's probably what you're doing if you're in Denver, out of Denver, is through the internet is you're reaching out and using PeopleSoft over the internet. Is that correct?
Correct.
So that's the gist of what they're talking about here, is all business practices, not just some, but all business practices being able to integrate, fully integrate those and have an internet presence. Now some of you that with just one location, you've got at least 2 locations, don't you?
No,
You used
just
to?
one.
Okay, you just got the one location. And then finally, the third one there is the ability to customize. An example I use with customize, well, I'll get to that in a second here, but those are the 3 probably best ways to improve or move from an average kind of a company up to best in class. Now, if you're a laggard company, you're probably not here today. You're probably not talking about things. You're probably not looking at move it up. But if a laggard company could move up to average or goes best in class as well. But the gist of it is how do we go about doing that? Well, we need to standardize. We need to integrate, and then we need to customize, or be able to have the ability to customize in order to do what you want to do. Now, when you standardize business process, and I was very interested to read through this on the PeopleSoft, every one of your types is being done through PeopleSoft, it looks like. So PeopleSoft handles all of that. So if you're estimating and jobbing, everything is going through there. But then you take a look, direct deposit and payroll. You have the payroll system too, right? You have your payroll system. Is it direct deposit? Do they have, and I'm just asking, do they have a separate time clock?
We don't have time clocks.
Time clocks.
We clock in and out through PeopleSoft.
Got it. Okay, good. That's the kind of thing I'm looking at. That's the kind of thing I'm looking at. Is CRM. Do you use CRM packages?
I've used CRM,
but
not
it's the
here, but
PeopleSoft.
I've used CRM before. Not through there, no.
No, it isn't.
No.
Are there any other manual processes, like spreadsheets, keeping track of anything at all? You guys are some of the elite then, because you're one of the few that I've read or talked about.
We use Workflow 1 for invoicing.
Is Workflow 1 just a module of PeopleSoft? I'm not familiar with that one. But
Well, I know we outsource it, so
okay.
we pay somebody to actually.
Oh, okay.
We pay, I think, it's like $1.25 per
Oh, okay.
transaction
Got
that's
it.
being processed.
All
So,
right. Excellent. Salespeople out in the field, do they have
They use
handheld?
Smart. Do you know what Smart
I'm not
is?
familiar with that one either.
No.
But they,
I don't use
there's
it.
so many things out there. And you can't. It's impossible to keep up with everything. But the concept that I'm trying to get at is if you've got multiple silos of data, which it sounds like they've tried to consolidate it as much as possible, or manual processes. Manual processes meaning the scale that you've got out there. They've got a landscape place, the trucks come up, they scale, they weigh it, then they have to re-enter that in over here.
Right,
In the Mass 90, the sales order system.
right.
They have a different estimating package, so when you go out and you estimate, they estimate through this package, and the estimators in this department love it, but then that has to be re-entered into the Mass 90 as the estimate or the budget for the job before actual costs begin to be populated in there. Different processes slow things down, make it a little less efficient and a little more less effective, and thus a little less profitable. So the concept of the ideal is to try and consolidate that in as much as possible into single silos of data. Now, I talked to a guy the other day, construction company, $50 million a year. You know, it's not huge, not 75 office, huge. It's a local place. They're a union contractor here. And after I talked to him about the concept, he looks at me and he says, well, that'd be impossible to do because we love this, we love this, we love our estimating package, we can't get away from that, and we've got to use this, we've got to use that. And each individual department loved what they did. And he came back to me a couple weeks later and he says, we may not do it immediately, but your concept of the multiple silos and automating everything, like the PeopleSoft is, it sounds like in your office, is what I need to change my mindset. And it may take me 5, 10, 15 years to get to it. I don't know how long it took TW Telecom to get to that, because they may have been in manual systems 10 years ago, right? How long did it take them to get to that point? But that's the concept that we all need to start looking at in our companies, is the single silos of data and converting manual processes and standardizing on single platforms, if we can. Now, the point that I've seen here lately, and the revolution that I think I've seen happen, is this next part. This next part is the integration and the use of the internet in that integration. Business Insights, and just is a dashboard, and I don't know if, I haven't seen PeopleSoft enough to know if they've got a dashboard. And what a dashboard is a summary, a graphical summary for owners to take a look in real time how the business is doing. So they can take a look at any given time and see everything from, well, let's just go to it and see. Business dashboard. This is an example.
Oops, that's the word that's not allowed in our office.
Yeah, only Dennis can use that. The dashboard over here, now this is within the accounting software package, but it can be published out to a company's intranet. So, for instance, going to a company's intranet, an owner with a password or a general manager or managers of office can dial in and take a look and see for their department or for the company as a whole, whatever they're dialed into or passworded into, you can take a look at any given time and see, in this example is the accounts payable analysis. Let me get over to that. And the graphical, let me see if I can give you some little more room here. This usually comes up in a browser, but this is what you would see in a dashboard. Cash requirements. This is how much money I'm going to need by the end of the week. Here's our aging in a graphical format. Purchases by division. Here are my top vendors, a list of my vendors, and then it goes into accounts receivable with cash expectations and flows. Top sales, aging, sales by division, top customers, the balance sheet, income statement,
Nice.
and then all the way down to the bottom, everything. There's quite a bit there. I don't want to go through all of it, but the workforce, in other words, how much sick time and vacation is coming up. And so it gives you an idea, a concept, in real time, what's going on. It allows you then to take that, let's see if I can grab one. Most dashboards allow you then to drill down to the actual reports to see not just a summary or a graphical representation, but a detail of everything that's happened. So this one was inventory sales analysis. This particular part number in this warehouse 000, period to date, we've sold 49 of them. Year to date, 141. Prior year, 200. Something like that, a dashboard that gives you the ability over the internet to, and almost anybody, even if they don't have rights to get into, password it in and take a look at that as an owner, general manager, store manager, etc., etc.
And what we've seen over the years is that if you're going into the boss, he's probably got a stack of paper or a stack of reports here or here or here or over there. That's his dashboard. He's running from one thing to the next, and he's waiting for that next report. Now, I'm going to tell you, you just seen something really powerful. Don't tell him about this unless you want him, because if he sees this, once he sees it, it's over. He will be right after wanting that, because then he only has to look at the one screen. Most managers know, do their managing by exception. Okay? They're looking for anomalies in numbers. When I look at a stack of numbers, if I've looked at that same stack of numbers year in and year out, decade after decade, I can look at a report and say, that one's not right. I want to know why that's not right. All the rest of the numbers I've already scanned. I already know about those. And that's what that little feature does. It allows the boss to look at that, say, hey, that looks good, that looks good. Hey, it's a great day. On to the next thing. And those numbers were auto-populated by all of the accounting data that's already in the background.
Have you ever heard of ADP, payroll service? Mm-hmm. ADP payroll service made a fortune, and they have a tremendous number of, I can't remember how many millions of companies they do payroll for. Because it made it easier for some of these smaller companies to do that. What's happening now is these companies, and I don't know if PeopleSoft has this or not, but some of these companies have brought that back in-house. Sage, for instance, hired some ADP executives to create their own payroll service. One of the difficult parts about an ADP, paychecks or some such like that, is how do I take that information and that data and get it into my general ledger? What's my journal entry that I have to bring in? Have you done that before? It's a pain. And so many of them are having their own GL payroll services where you can call up just like an ADP for smaller company. Here's my payroll. The payroll gets completed, and the journal entry gets sent back automatically and put into your general ledger. Next one down, AR credit card processing. So here we are. Accounts receivable credit card processing was another one they did. They're having problems. You're the one that set it up originally, right? Yeah. Out there is bumping into each other because they were using PC Charge at the time.
Right.
Are you guys still using PC Charge?
No, PC Charge is still installed on everything, but I use a separate terminal.
That's right. So what Sage did is they went out and bought their own processing center. Now I don't know, and again I don't know what these other companies do, but that's what companies are starting to do, is buy their own processing, trying to consolidate and have everything. The whole concept of an ERP is to bring everything under the same umbrella, same in-house functions. If we can bring them all together, then things tend to work better that way, instead of trying to make it work with a PC Charge that's out of Florida and a Sage that's out of here, and I can't remember where PeopleSoft's out of. But it is exactly what you said there to begin with, is this has happened throughout the industry, throughout the length of time the industry's been around. What have we been around, 30, 40 years, 50 years? I don't know what computers have been around, but it's always been this, always. The concept now is to try and bring it together. Credit card processing, where are my OAP electronic payments? Here's one that I found that's so big anymore, it's almost a revolution kind of rolling down through it. I don't know if you guys use it or not, but it's the same concept as direct deposit and employee and payroll with your vendors. And the difference is it's called EDI, electronic data interchange, is a way that, for instance, this fast food restaurant orders 1 million pounds of hamburger every year, but it's in 100,000 invoices throughout the year for 117 different places. It's huge. And somebody used to be typing those in all the time. Well, why not go to the vendor and say, just send us that electronically, the invoice electronically, so it's put in automatically.
Right.
When I'm ready to pay it, I'll send it back to you electronically. All electronic. That way it saves a tremendous amount of time coming and going.
Huge.
Okay. Electronic payments, direct deposit, of course, that's a fairly common one. Electronic W-2s, anybody with over 250 employees is required to do that anyway. But the W-3 with your stack of W-2s on paper and mailing that in, I had somebody mail in 167 of them the other day, and it was pretty thick. You know, they had to put multiple stamps on it. Just go to electronic. It's a whole lot easier just going to the electronic filing of your W-2s and 1099s. Payroll, federal and state e-filing, your taxes. Was it January of this year that they no longer will accept those paper coupons?
That's correct.
You have to do it electronically now. So it must be done electronically. Most of you are probably doing it electronically anyway with your payroll. So. Positive pay. Anybody have a fraudulent check ever come across? Somebody's tried to forge your checks, and then if you have, you ever had that? Not yet? It's amazing what's going on out there, especially if you have large payrolls, is how many people are creating fraudulent checks. It's so easy to do. If you have a minute afterwards, I can show you. No, it's very easy to do with the magnetic Micker cartridge. You can create your own check and capture a signature that you found anywhere and slap it down on there. It can be a legitimate signature and look just like one of the company checks. It's very easy to do. So the positive pay is one of those electronic things that tells the bank, here's my batch of checks that I've written. Don't accept any others. If it's not this check number, this payee name with this dollar amount, don't accept it.
Actually, that happened to me when I went to cash my check.
Oh, did it?
Yes. They told me the batch numbers didn't match, so they didn't...
They would cash it because it didn't match.
Right.
So your positive pay didn't work. So that week the positive pay didn't work.
Well, it was before I did direct deposit,
Oh,
so
okay.
I went to go cash it.
Got it.
So finally I just put it in the bank, but
Yeah.
I went to the casino.
There you go. Casino
it's the
cash
weekend,
anything.
why
Right?
not?
And then the auto check reconciliation. QuickBooks has done this for years. They're finally getting to that in the little higher end. I don't know if PeopleSoft does it. Be able to reach out to the bank and say what has cleared so far, and just bring it in and automatically check those. In other words, automatically reconcile your bank every day. So that business insights we saw a little while ago, to keep track of your bank balance, you can almost reconcile your bank every day. That might be a little much, but every day it can be done. Okay. And then some of the other things, remote users for salespeople that can do inventory inquiries, customer inquiries, actually create a sales order on the fly outside the office.
Oh.
Tremendous number of things happening there. Still working on it, but they're happening. The ABRA HR. So in your HR, if you've got an HR person that has to keep track of everything from how much sick leave do I have left, how much vacation have I used so far, what plan am I on for the cafeteria plan? My address has changed. I want to change my dependents, number of dependents on my W-4 form. That takes a lot of time for a payroll clerk. The HR employee remote is a direct link that allows the employee to reach out there, make any of those changes, or review anything on their particular employee maintenance screen. Passworded so only that employee can get into it and so forth like that. Direct deposit, the same thing as there's in the paperless office kind of a thing, is it'll send an email to the employee with a stub showing what they've received so far, and it's passworded to that employee directly, so no one else can see it. Internet browser and launcher. Visual integrators in most packages now have import and export modules. The ability to reach into that data and either send data into it or bring data out of it. The next step is the customization, is the ability to take whatever input you have and customize it to fit your business. I went to a company quite a few years ago, Gaming Partners International, and they took a look at us and they said, we have all these manufacturing processes. And we're using manual processes here, spreadsheets here, I can't remember what else there. They're all over the board because they had different departments. They manufactured chips, the casino chips, the dice, the cards, the tables. What else am I missing? Seemed like there were 5 of them. I thought there were 5, but anyway. Cards, dice, chips, tables. Anyway, I thought there was a 5th one, but anyway.
Roulette wheel.
Maybe the wheels. I think it might have been. Is that manufacturing process is completely different for a casino table as it is for dice or cards. The chips was a bat, just like a bakery almost, because they had a recipe for the chips and the colors and so forth like that. Everything was different. When I showed them the software, I said, here's a manufacturing software that would work just fine for you. They looked at it and says, no, it won't. It doesn't fit what we're doing. It's like the example of a construction company the other day that I showed, well, this doesn't work at all. I like this package over here, this master builder package, because yours doesn't look like an accounting package. So I put a watermark on the back of it of a backhoe and showed it to him and says, well, here's the construction version of Mass 90. And he says, yeah, that's what I mean, is I need to see that one. And that's kind of what customization is a little bit. If you're the person sitting in that manufacturing plant, you want it to fit the gaming tables or the dice or the cards that you're working on, not that other department over there that does chips. So we hired a guy, paid him to sit there 8 hours a day for, was it almost a year?
Yeah.
About a year, customizing this software. It was a tremendous amount cheaper than one of your competitors, I should say, did for their software, who started from scratch for the entire software, customizing it. This was just semi-customizing it, but this is a big company. And he was down in Mexico, and there's a Mexico plant. There was over in France, the owners, and they had salespeople all across the country. So it was a big operation. And so he spent customizing each department. And so whoever they were, if they logged in, John Doe would log in, and up would pop the dice. Susie Smith would log in, and up would pop the chips or cards or something like that. It was completely customized to their login. So your login can be customized specifically to you. The entry screen can be customized specifically to you. Even so simple as, here's my, we weren't doing this anymore, but if you're entering in invoices from vendors and you like to go in order of date, invoice number, date, such and such, instead of the way the invoices are this way, we can customize it just that simple of a thing. If you don't like the gray background and you'd rather have pink, it'd be easy enough to do that. Those are the kinds of customizations that can be done in the new software, the revolutionary software, I'm calling it, of at least half of the packages we talked about on the sheet here. Now, the last half of this screen right here is really where it opens up, and I think where ERP packages, these higher-end packages, distinguish themselves from the lower-end packages, is it opens up the data sources. And big companies, for instance, are hiring now financial or business analysts. And their job is to look at the data. Simply get into the data and answer the what-if questions that managers and owners want to hear. Well, how many people came in and bought something? I mean, it was so detailed in some of these fast food restaurants. They could tell, oh no, it was Home Depot is the one I was looking at the other day. Home Depot, in their yearly financials, said this is the number of people that came in and bought something this year as opposed to last year. And this is how much the average person spent. That what-if analysis usually can't be done in accounting software. That needs to be done by things like Crystal Reports or the ODBC access, and getting into those open data sources and pull that data out. I had one company look at me the other day and say, we have to use Excel because that's what we know. We know Excel, we can do that, but it's limited to only 65,000 transactions. In our data file, it was the, what was the name of the place? Wyndham Resorts. Wyndham Resorts has millions of transactions of people reserving a place and so forth and coming out. And so they needed a business analyst to go in there and take a look at that information and pull it out. And they were pulling it into Excel spreadsheets that only had a limit of 65,000. So they'd have to go into these big, huge databases of millions of transactions and say, well, just give me the ones in the 89X zip code, or just give me the people in the that start with the name A through C, and pull out those and put them into the spreadsheet, and then I'll work on that, and then I'll do the next one later, and the next one later. Where Crystal Reports and some of these others allow you to reach in and look at all million transactions and pull out and do those what-if analysis on those transactions. So that's the idea behind FRX financial transactions or financial statements, for instance, will read almost any of the data files. It's a Microsoft product. It's going away, they're rewriting and doing a new one, but for right now, FRX is the standard in financial statements. It'll reach out and grab the PeopleSoft databases, the Oracle databases, the SQL databases, almost anything database that's out there, as long as it's that compliant, that open database compliant, it can reach out, grab that data, bring it in, and create financial statements and then consolidate them. And you get involved with the financial statements along with those guys. But that's probably what somebody's doing back in the main office, is they create financial statements for each of the 75 offices, and then they consolidate them, either by region or whatever, and then they consolidate it up to the headman. The FRX financial statements is one that does that for almost every package, and it may be with what they use there as well. Many of the companies are using those programs, such as Crystal Reports and FRX, to do their what-if analysis and to do their back-end, get the data out and take a look at them. And that's really where I wanted to get to today, is kind of finalize the discussion today, is no matter what you have out there, except you guys, it sounds like you're all got everything together.
No,
but
that's not true.
I'm just kidding you, but it's amazing how much you've got. I was just
No, I know.
kidding.
I just see her, sometimes I see her and she's putting a lot of data in herself
Yeah.
on a spreadsheet and stuff.
There you go.
When it has to do with like what we're bringing in for the city, etc.
Oh,
And
okay.
it just seems very tedious.
Yeah.
And I'll sit there and have to read off numbers to her, and there has to be an easier way to do
Has to be,
this.
and that's exactly what we're getting to. Is there has to be an easier way, and for 2 years now, no, for 20 years we've been trying to find that easier way. I think now it's starting to come. Is what we're starting to see in these packages. They probably came a couple of years ago in the high end, but the fixes are coming down into the lower ends now, of ways to bring it all together, to standardize it, to integrate it, and to customize it. And that's kind of our discussion today, or that's the presentation today, is if we can start looking at that and start thinking in that mindset, is there's a better way.